Chair recognizes Mr. Poe of Texas. To what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 5 minutes to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, the people of this country many times get so frustrated because they think that we here in Congress don't hear them, we don't listen to them. I have a couple of letters here I'd like to read into the record, at least part of them, so that my colleagues in the House can get some flavor for what the people in mid-America are thinking right now. This letter is from a lady named Emmeline P. Henn in Huntington, Indiana, and she says, "Dear Congressman Burton, it was great to hear you and speak with you at Huntington's Lincoln Day dinner, but we want to stress the things we said then. We do have confidence in you," which I really appreciate. She says, "We are appalled by what is happening in Washington. Now in our 80s, we have seen many administrations. None has been as frightening as this one. In less than 6 months, President Obama and his team have drawn the U.S. government deep into private business. The government's business is governing, not business. There is no doubt the President and his team have taken us far on the road to socialism, so far that we fear there may be no return. Their spending is out of this world, and it will not save the economy. In the long run, bailouts don't work. The health care issue, the credit card issue, the card check issue, and more are taking us far from free enterprise and are causing many citizens to give up on self-reliance and responsibility in favor of relying on the government. There is little incentive for talented people to innovate, work hard, and create business. What a terrible lesson. We pray you fight for this movement. At the same time, we pray you'll support the United States safe and keep the United States safe in every way you possibly can." You can see and you can hear the frustration in this lady by the way her letter sounds. But then there's another one here from a General Motors dealer in Wabash, Indiana. And I'll just read part of this letter because I think it really, I want to put the whole thing in the record, but I want to read part of it because it tells you the frustration that small business people have in this country. It's from David and Kay Doris. And she says, "My husband, David Doris, and I are the owners and operators of Doris Chevrolet in Wabash, Indiana. This business was started over 60 years ago by my husband's grandfather, Gus Doris. Gus was the first All-American in football from Notre Dame University. He came to Wabash, Indiana from Detroit. He began a Chevrolet dealership operating under the philosophy of, quote, give back to the community that has been given much to you. This is the philosophy we've strived to operate under. We've always been extremely loyal to General Motors and to our community. Small business is what helped to build this great country of ours, and loyalty is what makes all of us successful. We have always given back whenever asked, oftentimes without being asked. We have always paid taxes. We've always voted. We have always made contributions. We've always participated in the programs that General Motors asked us to participate in." And then they go on to say that they had an attorney that was talking to them about the way they're being treated by the government and by General Motors, which is now controlled by the government. Government Motors now, no longer General Motors. And they say, "We are now no longer to be a part of the new General Motors. We're no longer good enough, even though we were part of the faction that helped to support them for years. Yesterday I listened to an attorney representing auto dealers speak. He's the first person I've heard make any sense in this mess. He asked, where are your elected representatives? Where are the elected officials that you donated to? Where are the elected officials that you voted for? He further added that these people never hesitated to ask for your help, but where are they now? The most important question asked was, why are you allowing them to turn their backs on you? And I'd just like to say, if I were talking to my colleagues in the House, my friends in the Senate, or if I were talking to the President, I would say it's time for us to pay attention to these people. Instead of putting everything under government control, instead of trying to bail out everything by printing money that we don't have, we ought to be cutting taxes like they did under Ronald Reagan. We cut taxes across the board when we had terrible problems back in the early 80s. We had 14% inflation. We had 12% unemployment, worse than we have right now. And when Reagan came in, instead of throwing money at everything, what he did was says, we're going to give people some of their money back. We're going to cut their taxes. We're going to cut business taxes, because if we do that, they'll have more income and more money to spend on expanding our economy, to buy products, to produce new products. And he did that. And because of that, we had one of the longest periods of economic expansion in this country's history. You compare that to what we're seeing today, where businesses are being driven out of business. This business has been there for 60 years, and they're going out of business because we're trying to solve the problems by letting government solve everything. 61% of General Motors is going to be run by the unions now. And we've spent $57 billion bailing these companies out when we could have done it the way Ronald Reagan did. I want to end by just saying I feel real frustration when I get these letters from my constituents. And I hope my colleagues are paying attention and the people at the White House are paying attention, because instead of printing more money and throwing more money and putting more government control in charge of everything, we ought to be giving the American people the right to have some of their money back so they can expand this economy, because government sure isn't doing it.
Mr. Jones of North Carolina. Ms. Capter of Ohio. Mr. Moran.